Good morning, dear students. We have been discussing about the post-fertilization events that occur in the plants, angiosperms, and in that we were discussing about the development of the endosperm. There are basically four things that happen post fertilization. One is development of the endosperm, second is development of embryo, third is maturation of the ovule into a seed, and the fourth is maturation of the ovary into a fruit. So these four events occur one after the other. So we discussed how the male gametes came, they fused with the egg cell to form the zygote, and the other male gamete fused with the polar nuclei which formed the primary endosperm nucleus or the primary endosperm cell, which started dividing in various ways, and we named them differently as nuclear endosperm, cellular endosperm, and halobial endosperm. Based upon the type of division the nuclei or the cell was undergoing. Today we will discuss about the development of the embryo. Depending upon whether the newly formed endosperm is totally consumed by the growing zygote or whether it is partially left along with the seed, there are two types of seed. One is albuminous, one is exalbuminous. When the endosperm persists in the seed, that is, it is not completely consumed by the growing embryo, then the seed is known as albuminous or endospermic seed. And this type of seeds are like castor seeds, coconut, these are all your albuminous seeds. Whereas in some seeds you will not find any trace of the endosperm. They are totally consumed by the growing embryo. Such seeds are called exalbuminous seeds or non-endospermic seeds. These seeds are like your wheat, pea, beans, sunflower. These are the different types of seeds where you will not find any endosperm persistent in the seed. That is, it has been already consumed by the growing zygote. The food has been consumed by the zygote. Then it is a non-albuminous or non-endospermic seed. Exalbuminous or non-endospermic seed. Only after a certain amount of endosperm has already been formed, then the zygote starts its division. Why so? So that it has some nutrition around it while its growth. If there is not enough of nutrition, how will the zygote grow? So first the endosperm is formed and then the zygote develops. Now development of the zygote is of two types. As you all know, angiosperms have been classified as monocots and dicots depending upon the number of cotyledons present in the seed. So the development is also seen as of two types, as in dicots, as in monocots. The embryo develops at the micropylar end of the embryo sac. Exact development of embryo is not part of your syllabus, but then there's a diagram given in your books which gives the general development of the embryo. How the cells divide, there is a globular embryo, then the heart-shaped embryo, and then how the cotyledons form. That's all is given about embryogenesis in your syllabus. So you have to restrict yourself to that. Other than that, if we talk in general, the initial stages, that is the first few stages of both dicot and monocot embryogenesis is same, that is few cells which are similar in nature. The mode of division is almost similar. In dicots, this heart-shaped growing embryo then converts into two cotyledons, and in the monocots it gets converted into the plumule, and there's the suspensor, the endosperm. So it is basic initial structures are same. As they develop, they show the differentiation between the dicot and the monocot. How it is occurring is not in your syllabus, so we'll not discuss that. Let's discuss the structure of the dicot seed as well as the monocot seed. Here is a picture of a kidney bean. Now this is the seed coat, the hilum, micropyle, and over here if you see these are the two cotyledons. The upper part is the plumule, the lower part is the radicle. Just below the plumule is your epicotyle, and just above the radicle is your hypocotyle, and between the epicotyle and hypocotyle is the point of attachment of the two cotyledons. So these are the structure of the dicot embryo. It is also given in your book. I'll show you. This is the structure given in your books. This is the plumule, the two cotyledons, the radicle. This is the hypocotyle. Just below the plumule, right, is your epicotyle, which is not visible clearly over here. The radicle has a root cap. So this is the dicot embryo. The dicot embryo, you will find that the plumule, the epicotyle, the point of attachment of the two cotyledons, the hypocotyle, the radicle, all of them are in a same axis. This is known as the embryonal axis. Along with the embryonal axis, on the two sides are the two cotyledons present, and they are attached at the point of attachment of the two cotyledons. I had shown that to you in the diagram. But in case of monocots, there is a difference. First thing, that there's only one cotyledon. Here this cotyledon is called as scutellum. It is towards one side of the embryonal axis. Over here also the plumule and the radicle lie in one particular plane. But the the cotyledons, instead of being on both sides of this embryonal axis, it is on one side, and it is known as the scutellum. Let's look at the pictures. Here is a monocot seed. We are trying to view is that of maize. Here is the endosperm, so it is a endospermic seed or albuminous seed, and this is the growing embryo. If we see the transverse section, there is a seed coat or the fruit ball, and then the aleurone layer, and then the endosperm. So this is the endosperm, and cotyledon is present over here. This is named as scutellum. Inside is the upper part is the plumule and the lower part is the radicle. They are covered by sheath of tissues which are known as coleoptile around the plumule and coleorhiza around the radicle. During germination, the plumule and the radicle start growing depending upon what type of germination it is. If it is hypogeel germination, the radicle will come out first, and most of these monocot seed, it has been seen that the radicals come out first, and that type of germination is known as hypogeel germination. This is the diagram of the longitudinal section of an embryo of a grass. You see the scutellum is present here, coleoptile, that's the sheath-like covering. Then the shoot apex is enclosed within the coleoptile, and the root cap is enclosed within the coleorhiza, which is again a sheath of cells. Epiblast is again a supportive tissue present along with this. So the zygote develops into the embryo, and it is enclosed by endosperm, at times leftover endosperm, then the cotyledons, and they are covered and protected in the final product, which we call the seed. So seed is the final product of sexual reproduction. Let us study the various features of the seed. The residual nucellus develops into perisperm, as it is seen in beetroot seeds and in black pepper castor. the two integuments develop into the seed coat. The outer integuments form the testa, and the inner integuments forms the tegmen. And you can see two layers attached to each other, especially in red gram. If you soak them, you'll find the outer seed coat is a double layer. So that is the integuments have developed into the seed coat, the outer testa and inner tegmen. The moisture content of the embryo and the whole seed reduces by 10 to 15%. That helps the seed to enter dormancy phase. The micropyle remains as the pore, the micropyle of the seed, through which the uses to absorb water during germination. There is another point known as hilum. That is that point where the seed is attached to the seed coat, to the fruit. It is the point of attachment of the stalk where the fruit is attached to the seed. So hilum is that point where the stalk is attached, and with the help of the stalk the seed is attached to the fruit. Development of the ovule into the seed and the ovary into the fruit occurs simultaneously, and the ovary wall is made up of three layers: pericarp, mesocarp and endocarp, and these three layers form the fruit. Fruits in which the ovary wall develops into a fruit are the true fruits. Whenever the flower has got fertilized, the development of the zygote has begun. Eventually the floral parts degenerate and they dehisce. But at times in some species it has been found that parts other than that of the ovary wall becomes the fruit. For example, in apple, strawberry, the thalamus of the fruit flower becomes the fruit, and these are your false fruit, where the fruit has developed not from the ovary but from other parts of the flower. The NCERT book shows these two diagrams. This is a diagram of the apple where it is a false fruit. The thalamus is growing into the fruit. The ovary and the seeds ovule are over here. The endocarp is here. The mesocarp is around, and so is the pericarp, and here is the remnant of the flower. Again here, this is the thalamus which is becoming the fruit in case of strawberry. I guess all of you know, in case of lychee, it is the aril of the flower which becomes the fruit. So even lychee is not a true fruit. Mango is a true fruit, where the skin of the mango is your pericarp, the flesh of the mango is your mesocarp, and the innermost coat is your endocarp, and inside the endocarp lies your the seed, the two cotyledons holding the young embryo. Here is the structure of a mango fruit showing the exocarp, mesocarp and endocarp. Together it forms the pericarp. Inside this are the two cotyledons. This is a longitudinal section. Here is the structure of the coconut fruit. This is the solid albumin central cavity which holds the nuclear endosperm, the mesocarp, epicarp. The embryo lies over here. I hope all of you have seen three dots at one end of the coconut. That's the place where the embryo is. Seeds have lots of importance in case of angiosperms. They are the end product of the sexual reproduction. Now they help in perennation. They help in crossing the dormant phase and then germinate after the dormant phase is over. They also help in dispersal, like they are protective. The small tender embryo is protected by the cotyledons which are holding the seed coat, everything together. It is protecting the small embryo. And on top of that, because it is a sexually reproductive after sexual reproduction, it's a production of the sexual mode of reproduction, it has variation from the parent species also. For dispersal, even if it's taken to a far off barren place, it has some stored food which can be utilized in its initial phase until it grows its own leaves which can photosynthesize and make food for the young embryo. So the seed, the whole of it is a package for the new organism, right from nutrition, right from protection, right from variation from the previous progeny. All these are seen in a